I really shouldn't have followed those two. My boss just did an awesome job. Got to tell you two things about my Ignite. One, don't try to read all the words, your head will explode, but I had to show you the articles, and exploding heads is not friendly neighborhood behavior. The other is, I wanted to be funny, but as I looked at headlines that you are all in, you're not funny people. And so I have to be serious in my Ignite. As I looked through all these periodicals, it wasn't hard to find you, but it was hard to find funny material. I did find out that you're old. Associations are very old. Here's an article from the mid-1800s for AAAS having their annual meeting coming up in Baltimore. But not only are you old, but you serve old professions. That's okay. You serve the bakers, and you've carved, or the butchers, and you've carved that particular profession up as much as they carve up a pig. You've segmented it and segmented it. You also do serve the bakers. And it turns out their problem really isn't with wheat or flour. It's the people keep stealing their plastic trays, according to this article in the Wall Street Journal. You would think they'd have bigger problems. So after those two, I moved on to check in with who else? The Candlestick Makers, to see what they were up to. They're stopping a lot of the fires, but some people clearly are not subscribers or seeing the news piece because they're giving their dog a birthday candle in the cake. Dogs are flammable, just letting you know. The other thing is you actually do serve the oldest profession. Here's a quote from the association president in a Sports Illustrated about some professional development that's going on with the membership for the World Cup. It's okay, what can we say? But there is a lot of heavy stuff too. The NAACP did a lot of heavy lifting during the Civil Rights era, and it came to odds with some of your other memberships like the American Bar Association. But what they were doing was fighting a courageous fight at a time that it was very necessary. The recording industry of America also fought for artists to be able to maintain, when Napster came along, their income. We all knew Christina Aguilera needed that money, right? Not only that, but sometimes the news is bad, but the work your members do is good. The National Association of School Psychologists are there in times of crisis, Columbine, Newtown, and that's really important work that they're doing. Also, sometimes you're at odds with each other, and one association's fighting a good fight, like the Cancer Society, and they're against the Tobacco Institute, which is trying to unlink cancer from smoking. This was happening in the 70s. We all know what happened in that battle. But then there are some associations I just couldn't find. I looked and looked and looked for headlines for this group. I couldn't even find their headquarters to give them a call. They're doing a good job. Some associations I could find a lot on. The Wall Street Journal ran this article about from the Association of Pet Obesity Prevention. There are some people who need some subscriptions to the Wall Street Journal because they're just not getting it. Non-dues revenue opportunity there for their product. Association Now ran our friends, the Medical Marijuana Association, a story on them. I'm waiting for the follow-up from the snack industry. It seems like a natural marriage to me. That's not all that's out there. The Royal College of Physicians in London had from the BBC magazine, had an article. It turns out that there's some drinking problems in England. Who knew, right? You're all fine drinking on a Monday night. Just keep right on going. There's nothing for you to worry about. And hey, you true left-handers out there, it turns out you're smarter and more creative than us right-handers, but you also are more clumsy, direly, and can't remember what you're thinking about. So the American Psychology Association had this in the Independent. I ran into the Futurist Society here in BBC News Magazine as well, and all I really cared about was that second prediction for the next 100 years. We are screwed if this turns out to be true. The others were great. It's an article definitely worth looking into. But what I want to say is maybe this side of the International Association of People Who Dine Over the Sink isn't really moving needles in society. It's real. But you are moving needles in society. You're doing incredibly important work. You're doing courageous work. The Flight Attendants Association right now in the news doing some courageous work. And what we really need is for this community to come together and make the whole larger than the sum of its parts. And if you go back to Ignite 1, when we talked about the Medici effect of bringing different disciplines together, I want to see headlines next time I do this where 3 different societies have brought together their top scientists and created something that didn't exist before. For example, nanotech solar power paint. That's what I want to find next time I do this. Thank you so much.